So, like right now, in a world that is flooded with so much sports content, from the debate you see on TV to the debate you go viral on TikTok, the biggest question I have right now is who can we trust in this sports media world right now, right? Because when you have the rise of like sports personalities who stop covering the stories and wanted to become more of the stories, like Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, and a flood of just like people who are basically imitators, right? Clout chasing for clicks, right? We have seen kind of the death of like true sports journalism and sports coverage, right? We have people who are more worried about, I'll be honest with you, going viral and having clickbaity topics than actually covering the sports, right? Like, look at ESPN, what it used to be when you have Bob Levy, Stuart Scott, right? To me, I'll be 100% honest with you. Stephen A is all due respect to Stephen A. I love him to death. He's one of the most prominent sports figures in sports today, right? Everything he has done is some of the best work you have seen. But to me, he is trying to do a Stuart Scott impression. To me, personally, that's all I have to say. Right? He's doing a Stuart Scott impression. It is what it is. But we have seen guys like him become more concerned about being the story than actually covering the story, right? ESPN has focused more now on ratings and views, clicks, web pages, TikTok views, everything, YouTube clicks and everything, than actually covering the sports, right? Look at ESPN. It went from like having great in-depth sports shows like Outside the Lines, right? Mike and Mike, Jim Rome, right? We used to have like guys who covered the sport, to having more flashy, shows like First Take, Pat McAfee Show, Get Up, right? All of those shows are great on their own, but they are not what SportsCenter used to be, ESPN used to be. It has kind of lost its substance for clicks. And again, a lot of that has to do with the rise of one young Stephen A. Smith, right? Former beat writer for Philly, covered everything, did everything the way he's supposed to do it, right? He worked from the ground up and did everything right. And he's right now reaping the benefits of his hard work. He got the Supermax for ESPN. He is literally the face of ESPN right now. Every time you turn on ESPN, you see Stephen A. Smith. You cannot escape this man. Especially in an NBA season, he is on almost every NBA show. He's on, Inside the NBA pregame, the postgame, halftime show, First Take, Get Up sometimes, SportsCenter. Literally, if you turn around, you will see Stephen A. Smith on your TV. But the problem I have right now is he lost a lot of his, credibility as a journalist when it comes to sports, mainly because he wanted to be the story and not cover the story, right? You look at some of the examples. The best example I have is the entire almost summer-long beef he has with LeBron. A lot of that has to do with, I'll be honest with you, a lot of that has to do with just his whole thing with him and Jordan, right? We all know Jordan is his boy, and we all know that Stephen A. Smith is going to defend Jordan like he is paid to. But like, let's just be honest, especially when recent times where LeBron has kind of like not cared about the criticism about him anymore, and it kind of just flipped on his head. Stephen A. Smith literally went out of his way to bash this man for no apparent reason. Telling him that, if I had it my way, I would never talk about you on the show again, and you'll never be as great as Michael Jordan. You'll never do this. You'll never be here. If I had it my way, you wouldn't. Like, dude, like, He is LeBron James. He's a first ballot, no question Hall of Famer. Whether you love him or hate him or indifferent to him, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer all the way through. And it's so weird to me when I see an unnecessary level of hate for an individual where it's not even needed. He has become LeBron James' chief critic correspondent, right? Almost anything LeBron James coverage, Stephen A. Smith has some type of commentary that is normally not even related to basketball. Questioning his leadership. Does he want it bad enough? Asking is this really important to him? Just covering, whenever, anytime anything negative of LeBron comes out, he's the first one there to kind of like stoke that flame a little bit. Stephen A. wanted to become more of the story than he did just covering a story, right? For me, cool, I can do that because, I can talk about LeBron James, and because all of these are opinion, but sometimes his opinion, he turns his opinion into facts, and that is the problem now, right? Because something that could have been a segment on the show and moved on, he turned it into like a month-long thing, going after his kid. Then when he tried to check him, all of a sudden it's, oh, well, he rolled up on me, and if it wasn't for this suit in ESPN, this would have been a different story. I would have did something like, he looked like he wanted to, like, all of that is unnecessary to me, right? It's unnecessary to me because it just feels like you're trying to make something that was a interaction between you and him. Yeah, somebody recorded it, somebody put it online, right? But it was an interaction between you and him because you literally went on your TV show and said, as a father, I feel like you are forcing him to play a game that he doesn't want. You said, Bronny looked at me and he looked down and he looked sad. And I can just feel that he doesn't have the love of the game that he used to have because his father is making him do X, Y, and Z or be X, Y, and Z. You inserted yourself because you made an assumption about something that you probably did not know what was going on. Then when you inserted yourself into that conversation, now all of a sudden it became this big thing and everybody saw the LeBron fight and everything like that. And then it became this huge blow up thing that went on for a literal like 3 months. Like anytime LeBron James and did anything with the Lakers, good, bad, or indifferent, it was like 5 segments on the show. Like 5. He made himself the story because it just, again, conspiracy theory hat on, it just so happens to coincide with you signing the $100 million contract with ESPN. Conspiracy theory, I still not 100%, but I still believe that he planted that just to kind of make it seem bigger than what it was. You look at the Kevin Durant beef that he had. Again, something that could have just been handled on your own show, but you brought it onto ESPN because he dared, because one of the great basketball players dared challenge you and saying that, hey, you don't know sports like you think you do. You had a whole monologue about that. You look at what just happened recently with Giannis, calling him an underachiever because he only won one title with the great numbers that he put up. Getting mad because Jay Will challenged you on it a little bit, right? These are the things that are making people be like, are cool with watching the show, but aren't really getting anything from it. It's not about like actually reporting on it or giving your opinion on it. You're trying to make your opinion fact. And then when you try to make your opinion fact, it doesn't go over well because now you're not viewed as someone who was trying to just be objective in this. You're putting your emotions into it and it's not making you objective anymore. And it draws up the question again because, again, I get it. ESPN is a business at the end of the day, right? They're owned by Disney. And if you ain't making money for Disney, Disney will cut you in a heartbeat. ESPN draws over almost 500,000 viewers a day. A day. It's a little bit better than the flagship show SportsCenter. It's just a little bit better. But you have to look at the fact of, does ESPN care? I'm going to ask this question a lot, by the way, so get ready. Does ESPN care more about ratings than they do about actually being about true blue sports journalism? Do they care about actual facts being laid out and letting you come to a conclusion yourself? Or are they okay with having their big name personality tell you what you should think about the facts that they are giving you, instead of letting you come to a conclusion on it yourself? And because of that, ESPN is slowly but surely eroding the trust between it and the people that is trying to entertain / educate, in a sense. They are more concerned about their ratings, and they're more concerned about how it plays over on everything else, like what gets shared the most, right? And we're in this digital age, it is all about what gets shared the most. Truth sometimes does get, truth and facts does get hid over opinion and debates. You can sit here and tell me, like, again, fact, Michael Jordan went 6-0 in the finals. That is fact. Your opinion is, because he went 6-0, therefore he is categorized as the GOAT. That is your opinion. That is not a fact. You could have your opinion, but you can't make it to be a fact. And that is the problem with Stephen A. that I have, is that he tries to make his opinion, law. His opinion is fact. You challenge him in any sort of sense, he'll outshine you. Like, the one thing I appreciate about Stephen A. Smith, and you can say whatever you want about Stephen A. Smith, he was happy to have a challenge. He never runs down from it. He never backs down from it. He always comes with the challenge, right? Like Jay Will went at him. They go back and forth. Like, I know people who you will give your opinion or about any type of sports topic, and then you debunk it, and then it's going for weeks, months, years on end about saying, like, no, I believe this is, like, yes, you believe, it doesn't make it real. So you have to ask the question, is ESPN caring more about just going viral than it does about actually getting, out there with true blue sports coverage? Because the next big guy on ESPN is Pat McAfee, right? Pat did not follow the traditional route on how to get there, right? I mean, you look at Pat, all-world punter, one of the best punters to do it, goes to do the WWE, especially in a time frame when it was COVID. He did the WWE when it was COVID time. He went out and did a podcast with other great athletes. Really blew up around, COVID era, because people were in the house, so they had time to listen to it. He's loud, he's brash, he's chaotic. Athletes love him. Fans love the energy. He brings up topics that ESPN don't like to talk about. He's constantly bringing in Aaron Rodgers, even though it causes so much trouble for everybody. And now he's probably the second biggest star on ESPN right now, behind Stephen A. But he is the perfect example of caring more about ratings than they do about the show, because ESPN, let's be honest, was kind of close to taking the show off of their air, right? Because he went out and publicly critiqued he said his bosses, he went up to his bosses and said, yo, this is not working for me. And it's ESPN's fault a little bit too, because they brought the Pat McAfee Show on the air as it was. They didn't change it. They didn't do anything. So all the controversy that he brings, especially with Aaron Rodgers being on there, when teams were literally telling him not to go on the Pat McAfee Show, he said, I'm going to do it anyway. Right? They put him on in the morning, so it's like noonish time. He's up there saying inappropriate words for that time frame, right? He didn't change the show up at all. He just went on. He said, okay, cool. This is my show. I'm just going to have it on ESPN. He didn't change it up. He didn't do anything else different. The only difference is it's now just on ESPN with ESPN money. The chaotic energy, yes. The loudness, yes. The brash, unabashed difference, yes. It's cool. It's entertaining. But are we getting to the root of sports? Are we talking about, he'll throw in every now and then, he'll talk about some sports stuff, but that's not why the people are watching. They're watching for whatever chaotic thing he's going to do or whatever chaotic thing he's going to say that week. They want the clickbaity stuff. They want things that they can share. The LeBron James interview, his biggest interview to date, was because he got up there and LeBron James loosened up that top button and kind of just went all out, right? That was a different side of LeBron we have seen, because that was the first time he kind of let his hair down, so to speak, and just relaxed. And he was cool. And that's the thing with Pat, is that because he's an athlete, other athletes are a little bit more relaxed with him because they know that he isn't going to say things that are going to trip him up, and he isn't going to say things that are going to be like, hey, might cost me some money. He's not going to say anything like that. So the athletes love him. The fans love him. The network execs they did love him, because even though he criticized executives, he was criticizing his ratings, right? Telling, he went out and told everybody that ESPN wanted to change the show, and he said, hell no. And he did all of that. ESPN, normally, if you did that, they would have fired you. They gave him a promotion and put him on College Game Day. They gave him a promotion, said, hey, Lee Corso's not there almost every week. We need to put you on there. So he said, no, we good. We don't care. We going to put you on there. And this just goes back to that point I talked about. ESPN now is caring more about ratings than they do actual credibility. Yeah, you can be controversial. You can do everything you want as long as them ratings are coming in. People are viewing into your show, even better. Keep it coming. Because what job do you know if you go talk shit about your bosses, they come up there and be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it's not 100% true, but yeah, we tried to change it up. But once we saw that it was just a success, we just kept it going. Because to me, his show reminds me a lot of that kind of mixture of just like what you would do with your friends in like a TikTok debate that you try to talk about with your friends and everything going. And his show is just a high valued with money with that. Yeah, he'll bring on Adam Schefter, who's a very respected voice in there. Yeah, he'll bring on Schwarm, which is a very respected voice in the NBA. But people don't care about that so much as they care about hearing the chaotic energy that he brings. His biggest segments are always with Aaron Rodgers because they know Aaron Rodgers may say something off the wall. He announced the Davante Adams trade before it even got 100% final on the Pat McAfee Show. Aaron Rodgers goes on there and says wild and crazy things. People go crazy. But when he goes out there to talk about actual sports stuff, they don't care about that. They care more about the wild and crazy things because that right now gets the people going, right? PTI is not like that anymore, right? You can look at Get Up. I love Get Up. Get Up is my show. Get Up is my show. If I'm up early enough, I'm watching Get Up. But you look at Get Up right now, the coverage that, mind you, the coverage of especially one team gets over the fact that we have an NBA Finals going on. For the pure fact that Dallas got the A segment, the segment they talk about at the top of the hour because Jerry doesn't want to pay him Micah. What are the expectations for the Dallas Cowboys this season? Right? If they don't win the Super Bowl, can we consider this team a failure? If they don't win the Super Bowl, will they break up this team? They go out and get George Pickens. What's the for a team that has not been into an NFC Championship game since I was in diapers, right? The last time they were in there, I think I was in diapers. For a team that has not had constant success, why are they always up at the A block versus an NBA Finals that is going on? Why? Because they know people want to turn in to see. People love to crap on the Cowboys. It brings in clicks, it brings in views, especially in this digital age where people don't sit down and watch a full, like, it's not like it was before, where people will watch an hour of SportsCenter just to see their team highlights, then to go on about their day, right? YouTube has made it so that you don't have to watch the whole show. You can watch the segment that you want to watch and move on. And like it or not, Dallas Cowboys is a hot topic and everybody's going to bring up to it. But the bigger question is, what is that doing for actual sports media, sports journalism, sports coverage, fair and balanced sports coverage? Because right now it's not. If you're a big market team and you make a play or you make moves or whatever, cool, you get the spotlight. But if you're a small market team who doesn't make enough plays or doesn't make enough moves, you don't get it. Even if you're a small market team that is actually doing well. People talk about how the NBA was not doing great this season, how the NBA ratings were down. That's because nobody in the bigger spaces wanted to talk about the NBA like that. You had perfect example. This year alone, the Cleveland Cavaliers had an instance where in the one season, they had 10-plus win streak twice. They won 10-plus games twice, and they weren't talked about at all. But you know who was talked about? LeBron James and the Lakers. Luka got traded. Oh my gosh, this is it. What's the expectations for Luka and the Lakers this year? Are Luka and LeBron going to get along? What's the expectation now for Bronny James with him being on the Lakers and Luka's there? Is this the year they win a championship? Is this the year LeBron James falls off the cliff? Where you have teams that are doing great things in the NBA at the same time. You don't want to talk about them because you know it's not going to get the coverage that it wants. You know it's not going to get the ratings that you want. So we have to ask a legitimate question right now. Is ESPN more focused on views than they are putting out information to you? First Take, the Pat McAfee Show, dominates airtime. I told you, you cannot turn on ESPN nowadays without seeing Stephen A. Smith on there somewhere. You can't turn on ESPN without seeing Pat McAfee somewhere on there. Hell, Pat McAfee, especially for me, because I'm a wrestling fan, I can't escape Pat McAfee. I see him Mondays on Raw. If there's a pay-per-view, he's on a pay-per-view. Sometimes he's having a match on the show. I can't escape Pat. But traditional journalist voices have been either laid off or pushed to the side for more more brash, more loud, more chaotic, more flashy people. And sometimes they don't cover the sport how it's supposed to be covered. And yeah, you have, true sports journalists on the website. But how many people are going to sit down and take the time to read a web page about its team? How many people are going to sit there and take the time to buy a newspaper and read about your local sports team going on? Debate, drama, viral clips, they have all been prioritized over in-depth reporting. Yeah, you'll get one story maybe during the college football season about this one kid who grew up tough. It's Control C, Control V. Kid A had a rough upbringing, went to football, found his way through, and is now going to college and maybe one day can go into the NFL. But we don't have those in-depth stories about teams anymore. We don't have those in-depth stories about players, or we don't have those in-depth stories about, all the things that go on behind the scenes in the front office, right? We have a bunch of people who would rather have viral moments than verified facts, right? Let's be honest. How many times have we seen a viral clip go viral and it's been completely false and people have taken and run with it? Especially in the sports world, it is crazy. If you are a big enough sports personality on TikTok and you have a vocal following outside of April 1st, you can just make a random trade saying like this person got traded. People will take it as gospel and run with it. And because it's hard to verify these facts or anymore, because you can have 5 or 6 stories that took it from this one source in TikTok. People don't read actual stories anymore. They just read the headlines, and people put in the most clickbaity headlines I've ever seen to get people to go onto their page, and it'd be 100% false. Viral moments are more cared about than actual in-depth coverage where it takes the time. One of the thing my journalism teacher said when I was in college said, everybody wants to be first, no one wants to be right. Everybody wants to be first to cover it, first to drop it, first to talk about it, but no one wants to be right about it. ESPN was the gold standard of doing things the right way, covering sports the right way. Now you look at it, it's not about that. It's about clicks. It's about views. It's about shares. It's about everything. The algorithm is king. I get that. Algorithm is king. But at what point are we going to completely abandon true blue sports journalism because it doesn't get as many views as like viral moments do? Are we honestly in the era where we don't have those conversations anymore? Are we in that era where you don't have to be, a verified person to make a random trade go through? I don't know how many times I had to go back and look to see and make sure this trade that I saw on a fake ESPN page, because it's got the blue check mark, it's verified, how I had to go back through and make sure this is actually a trade before I talked about it. How I had to make sure this thing actually happened before it goes on the air. Because I don't want to just be considered sitting here trying to get viral clips for clicks. I want to be known as someone who is, true blue, actually go through and do the research for it. It is. It takes this, a camera, a mic, and boom, there you got it. It's so many copycats out here that you don't know what is true and what is not. It is 100% true, because sports debates have become more and more of a thing. Sports, again, I will say this and I will say this now. Everybody's talking about once LeBron James leaves, the NBA will be better. No, it won't, because y'all won't have nothing to talk about. When LeBron leaves, y'all will literally have nothing. A lot of y'all won't have the success y'all have once LeBron James is not there, because y'all won't have anyone to hate. We've talked about this before. Y'all have a hate boner for LeBron James, and once he's gone, it's going to go flaccid, and you won't be able to talk about anything else. Right? Y'all, sure, it won't die off, right? Like, obviously, LeBron James and the Michael Jordan debate will go on until the end of time, especially if LeBron continues to stat stuff for, however else long he has in the NBA. But a lot of it is just going to be, well, the what if game. Y'all don't have anything else to do once he's gone. So like a lot of your credibility, a lot of y'all are going to be put to the wayside because y'all don't know how to research stats. Y'all don't know how to research players. Y'all don't know the histories of NBA. And I'm not saying you have to know, who played in the early 1900s for like in the ABA or the CBA. You don't need to know all of that. But you need to know something, so a lot of your opinions aren't known as fact in your mind because you made it up, right? Facts and opinions, it's just what it is. An opinion is LeBron is the GOAT. That is an opinion. LeBron is the GOAT is an opinion. A fact is LeBron has the most points in NBA history. That is a fact. That is not debatable. That is not something you can sit up here and say, well, actually, technically, if you look at, like, no, he has the most points in NBA playoff history. He has the most points in NBA history. Now, you can go on and say, well, Jordan did it. Jordan got almost to 4,000 in less time. And Jordan did this. Like, you can go on and have that debate, but you cannot argue with the fact that LeBron James is number one in scoring. But the problem is, a lot of people know that's a fact. But if they say that, they know, oh, I'm not going to get no views if I say that. But if I say LeBron James is the GOAT because he has the most points in playoff history, that's going to spark up debates. That's going to get me the engagement that I need. That's going to get me the stuff that I can go forward in. It has broken down to that. People don't care about actual research or actual going in and trying to be a voice to the people about these sports topic. They want the views. They want the clicks. That's where we are. That is legitimately where we are. You cannot, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, you cannot scroll on, your phone, your computer. You can't turn on your TV without somebody yelling a take at you. You don't know if you're being informed or entertained. It's fun to watch them go at it, but then it just breaks down. Like, again, Stephen A, Pat have done they have done it. Stephen A has done it the old-fashioned way. Pat McAfee has done it the new way. But they have made the game louder, more fun, and more watchable. But they've made it harder for people who are on the ground, who are reporters, to be heard. We are at the point where we are just drowning in takes, drowning in opinions, and no facts are to be found. We don't know who we can trust. We don't know if this source I have is verified by, actual people. We don't know. And that is the position we are in at this point. So if you ask me who's the most trusted person in sports, right now, it's whoever is actually doing the work to actually put in that time, that blood, that sweat, that tears, to actually do the research about it. So go out there and find actual sports reporters who do the work, who take the time out, who will take the time out of their day to look up some facts that people don't even think about. Give them the credibility, give them the views, give them the clicks, because they are the ones who need it. Because they are the ones out there drowning, and it's up to us to throw them a life raft. So that way, sports journalism doesn't die on the vine. For sports, basically, opinionism. That's what it's coming down to. Sports opinionism, where it's opinions, not facts, that are bubbling up to the surface. And if we don't do it, we aren't going to have true sports journalism anymore. We're just going to have literally sports entertainment. That's what's going to be left. Well, that is my time, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to Fluent Radio for putting me on. Shout out to y'all for listening. Until next time, I got 2 fingers for you guys. Deuces. Because I Have a Live Mic was proudly presented to you by Fluent Radio, where all things are fluent. Please like, share, and subscribe. All right, 2 fingers. Deuces.